In the vast desert of ancient Egypt, where the line between life and death shimmered like heat waves on sand, one god stood watch over humanity's most fearful journey. With the head of a jackal and skin as black as the fertile soil of the Nile, Anubis became the eternal guardian at death's threshold. His story is not one of battles or conquests, but of compassion, precision, and an unwavering commitment to justice that would define Egyptian beliefs about the afterlife for over 3,000 years. Before we begin this journey into the realm of the dead, if you find these ancient stories fascinating, consider subscribing and following the channel. Your support helps to continue exploring the mysteries of the ancient world. The origins of Anubis stretch back to the very dawn of Egyptian civilization, making him one of the oldest gods in their pantheon. His name in ancient Egyptian was Inpu, or Anpu, which scholars believe may derive from the word meaning to decay or royal child. According to the pyramid text, Anubis appears as a powerful deity even in these earliest records. The most common myth of his birth tells us that Anubis was born from the union of Osiris and Nephthys. But this was no ordinary conception. Nephthys, sister of Isis and wife of Set, disguised herself as Isis to seduce Osiris. When she gave birth to Anubis, she feared the wrath of her husband Set and abandoned the infant in the marshes of the Nile Delta. Isis, demonstrating the compassion that would define her character, discovered the child and raised him as her own, making Anubis the adopted brother of Horus. This early abandonment and rescue would shape Anubis's role as a protector of the vulnerable dead. Yet older traditions, particularly from Upper Egypt, claimed different parentage entirely. In the earliest periods, before Osiris rose to prominence, Anubis was sometimes called the son of Ra, the sun god. This confusion reflects Anubis's ancient nature. He predated many of the more famous gods, and as Egyptian religion evolved, later myths attempted to incorporate him into newer divine families. But why a jackal? Ancient Egyptians were keen observers of nature, and they noticed that jackals and wild dogs often prowled the edges of their cemeteries, sometimes disturbing shallow graves. Rather than viewing this as a threat, they demonstrated remarkable wisdom by making the jackal sacred. By transforming the potential desecrator into the divine protector, they believed they could safeguard their dead. Anubis's black skin was equally symbolic. It represented both the black soil of the Nile that brought life and the color of mummified flesh that promised rebirth. Anubis's own family life reveals much about his character and role in the Egyptian cosmos. His wife was Amput, whose name simply means female Anubis. She was depicted as a woman with a jackal head, or as a full jackal, mirroring her husband's form. Amput served as a protective goddess in her own right, particularly for women in childbirth and the dying. Together, they represented the dual nature of death, both the fearful transition and the compassionate guidance through it. The couple had a daughter named Kebeshet, also called Kebet or Kebhut. Her name means cooling water, and her role was both tender and essential. According to funerary texts, Kebeshet provided cool, fresh water to the souls of the dead as they waited for judgment. In the hot, dry land of Egypt, this water represented not just physical relief, but spiritual purification. She was often depicted as a serpent, or as a woman with a serpent's head, carrying water jars. Kebeshet had another crucial function. She assisted her father in the purification and preparation of bodies for mummification. She was believed to wash the internal organs and help preserve them. In this way, the entire family of Anubis worked together in service to the dead, creating a divine household devoted entirely to death's sacred processes. Anubis's relationship with his adopted brother Horus was particularly significant. After Osiris's death, when Horus battled Set for the throne of Egypt, Anubis sided with Horus. Some legends tell that Anubis helped heal Horus's eye after Set tore it out during their battles. This loyalty to his adopted family, despite his blood connection to Set through Nephthys, demonstrated Anubis's commitment to justice and truth over mere kinship. The most pivotal moment in Anubis's mythology came with the death of his father, Osiris. According to the myth, preserved in Plutarch's Moralia and referenced throughout Egyptian funerary texts, Set murdered Osiris out of jealousy and dismembered his body, scattering the pieces across Egypt. When Isis recovered the pieces, it was Anubis who performed the first mummification, transforming his father into the first mummy. The Book of the Dead, particularly in Spell 151, describes Anubis's careful work. He washed the body, removed the organs, applied natron salts, and wrapped Osiris in linen bandages, speaking protective spells over each layer. This mythological act became the template for Egyptian embalming practices that would continue for millennia. Every embalmer who worked in the Per-Nefer, or House of Beauty, as the embalming workshops were called, wore a jackal mask representing Anubis, becoming the god's earthly representative. The process Anubis invented was both spiritual and practical. The body was treated with natron for 40 days to dry it out. The brain was removed through the nose, though ancient Egyptians didn't recognize its importance. The internal organs, lungs, liver, stomach, and intestines were preserved separately in canopic jars. The heart, however, remained in the body, for it would be needed in the afterlife. Each step had prayers and rituals, all derived from what Anubis had done for Osiris. Beyond the major myths, numerous legends demonstrated Anubis's character as protector and guardian. One particularly significant tale involved Set's continued attempts to defile Osiris's tomb. According to the contendings of Horus and Set, a text dating to the 20th dynasty, Set transformed himself into a leopard to sneak into the tomb and destroy Osiris's mummy. Anubis discovered him, captured him, and burned his skin with a hot iron brand, creating the spotted pattern that leopards have carried ever since. Anubis then flayed Set and wore his skin as a warning to other evil spirits. This is why Egyptian priests who performed the role of Anubis in funerary rituals wore leopard skins. They were reenacting Anubis's victory over chaos and evil. Another legend tells of a time when a wealthy Egyptian commissioned an elaborate tomb, but lived such a wicked life that his ba-soul, which is the Egyptian concept of the soul, representing an individual's unique personality, character, and essence, fled his body before death, seeking to escape the punishment it knew would come. Anubis hunted the wayward soul through the desert for 40 days and nights, finally capturing it and bringing it to judgment. This tale served as a warning that no one could escape Anubis's reach, and no amount of wealth or preparation could substitute for a just life. A more compassionate legend from the late period tells of a poor woman who died suddenly, leaving her family without resources for proper burial. Her husband and children wept at her bedside, unable to afford embalmers. Anubis, moved by their genuine grief and the woman's virtuous life, appeared to the local embalmers in dreams for 3 consecutive nights. In each dream, he taught them simpler techniques using more affordable materials, less expensive oils, shorter processing times, that would still preserve the body effectively. When the embalmers followed these instructions, they discovered the methods worked perfectly. This story circulated among common Egyptians as proof that Anubis cared for all people, not just royalty who could afford elaborate mummification. There was also a legend about Anubis and a cobra. A venomous snake had taken residence in a tomb, preventing the family from visiting their deceased loved one. Anubis appeared and challenged the cobra, ultimately defeating it, but recognizing its courage. He transformed it into a servant of his daughter Khebishet, giving the serpent a divine purpose, serving the dead rather than threatening them. This legend explained Anubis's ability to transform potential threats into helpful guardians. Anubis earned many titles throughout Egyptian history, but perhaps the most significant was Kenti Imentiu, meaning foremost of the Westerners, or chief of the Western lands. In Egyptian geography and belief, the West was where the sun died each evening, and thus where the dead traveled. The necropolis, or city of the dead, was always built on the western bank of the Nile. In this role, Anubis was believed to personally guard cemeteries and tombs. Statues him as a recumbent jackal were placed at tomb entrances, and his image was painted on coffins to provide protection. The Papyrus of Ani, one of the most complete versions of the Book of the Dead, dating to approximately 1250 BCE, shows Anubis in this protective role throughout its illustrations. But Anubis's duties extended beyond mere guardianship. He was also called "He who is upon his mountain," referring to the desert cliffs overlooking the necropolis where jackals actually made their dens. From this vantage point, Anubis watched over both the living who came to mourn and the dead who rested below. He was believed to count the bodies, ensuring none were stolen or disturbed, and he guided the souls of the newly deceased through the dangerous journey through the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. To understand Anubis's role in the underworld, we must first understand the Duat itself. The Duat is not simply a place of rest, but a vast, dangerous realm that the soul must traverse after death. It is depicted in tomb paintings and described in funerary texts as a dark landscape filled with rivers of fire, lakes of darkness, caverns guarded by demons, and 12 regions corresponding to the 12 hours of night. When a person dies, their journey begins immediately. The soul leaves the body and finds itself at the entrance to the Duat, disoriented and vulnerable. This is where Anubis first appears, as Emi-Ut, meaning he who is in the place of embalming. Anubis receives the newly dead and begins his role as psychopomp, which is the guide of souls. The Book of the Dead describes Anubis leading the deceased through the darkness. He knows every path, every gate, and every password required. The Duat contains 7 gates, and later traditions speak of 21 gates, each guarded by terrifying deities with names like Blood Drinker, who comes from the slaughterhouse, and Bone Crusher, who comes from the place of destruction. Without Anubis to speak the correct names and spells, the soul cannot pass. At each gate, according to the Book of Gates, Anubis announces the deceased and vouches for the soul's right to continue the journey. Yet his endorsement is conditional. He only bears witness to the soul's preparation, but does not guarantee its worthiness, leaving the ultimate judgment to the powers that govern the Duat. The journey is not merely geographical, but transformative. The soul travels backward through the night, symbolically being reborn as the sun is reborn at dawn. Anubis guides souls through regions where they might encounter the souls of the damned, those who had failed judgment and been reduced to wandering spirits. He protects his charges from these desperate entities, who might try to steal their essence. After guiding the soul through the dangerous regions of the Duat, Anubis finally brings it to the Hall of Two Truths, the Great Judgment Hall, where Osiris sits enthroned and 42 divine assessor gods wait. This is the culmination of the soul's journey and Anubis's most famous role, the weighing of the heart. The Book of the Dead, particularly spell 125, describes this scene in extraordinary detail. The hall itself is a place of perfect order. Its walls are inscribed with the principles of Ma'at, truth, and cosmic justice. The deceased enters and first addresses the assessor gods, reciting what is known as negative confession, declaring all the sins they have not committed during their lifetime. But words alone were not enough. Truth had to be measured. Anubis would lead the deceased to the great scales. He approaches the deceased with both authority and gentleness, placing his hand over their chest and, through divine power, extracting the heart, not physically, but spiritually. The heart, called Eb in Egyptian, is the seat of consciousness, memory, emotion, and will. Every deed, thought, and intention is recorded in its essence. On the scales, the heart is weighed against the feather of Ma'at. The feather is impossibly light, representing absolute truth and perfect justice. It carries no burden. Yet paradoxically, it becomes heavier than mountains when placed against a dishonest heart. Anubis then steps back and adjusts the scales with infinite care. His role is not to judge. That is Osiris's role, but to ensure the measurement is perfectly accurate. He is the divine technician, the cosmic accountant who ensures the mechanism of justice functions flawlessly. No prayer, no offering, no magic spell can influence his hand. Even pharaohs receive no favoritism when Anubis tests their hearts. Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom, stood ready to record the result. If the heart balanced perfectly with the feather, the deceased was declared Makheru, meaning true of voice or justified. Anubis would then lead them to Osiris, who granted them eternal life in the field of reeds, a paradise where crops grew effortlessly and the blessed dead lived in perpetual happiness. But if the heart was heavy with sin, weighed down by lies, murders, or cruelties, it would tip the scales. At that moment, a creature called Amit, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, would devour the heart. This was the second death, complete annihilation with no hope of resurrection. The soul would cease to exist entirely. Anubis, despite his compassion, never interfered with this judgment. His role was to ensure the process was fair, not to alter its outcome. Anubis is also said to maintain the Register of the Dead, a divine record of every soul that passes into the afterlife. This is not merely a list of names, but a comprehensive account of each soul's deeds, their judgment, and their ultimate fate. The coffin texts refer to this role, calling him "he who counts the hearts," suggesting he maintains numerical records of souls and their judgments. He also supervises the Field of Reeds, the Egyptian paradise where the justified dead live in eternal peace. While Osiris rules this realm, Anubis ensures its boundaries remain secure. No demon or spirit of chaos can enter this blessed place while Anubis maintains his vigilance. He walks its borders, particularly during the dangerous hours of night when the forces of Apophis, the Chaos Serpent, are strongest. Funerary texts describe Anubis performing regular inspections of tombs, both in the physical world and in their spiritual reflections within the Duat. He checks that the tomb seals remain intact, that the offerings left by the living reach the deceased properly, and that no tomb robbers or evil spirits violate the sacred spaces. Anubis also serves as a mediator between the living and the dead. When families perform rituals at tombs, Anubis receives these offerings and delivers them to the deceased. He transmits prayers from the living to their departed loved ones and occasionally allows messages to pass back, usually through dreams. The Egyptians believe that when they dream of the dead, it is because Anubis has granted the deceased permission to visit. Another aspect of his underworld role, often overlooked, is that Anubis protects those who die without proper burial. In a culture where burial rites are considered essential for survival in the afterlife, this is crucial. Soldiers who die in foreign lands, travelers who perish in the desert, victims of drowning in the Nile whose bodies are never recovered, all fall under Anubis's special protection. According to popular belief, Anubis seeks out these lost souls personally, granting them passage to the afterlife even without the proper physical preparations. In the Amduat, or Book of What Is in the Underworld, we see Anubis performing another crucial role. He stands guard at the entrances to the caverns where Egypt's enemies and the enemies of Maat are imprisoned. These are not just personal enemies, but cosmic forces of chaos, serpents of disorder, rebels against the natural order. Anubis ensures these entities cannot escape to threaten the justified souls passing through. Some texts describe Anubis as having multiple forms in the Duat. He can appear as a full jackal for speed when souls need quick protection, in his typical jackal-headed human form when performing rituals, or even as pure shadow when moving through the darkest regions where no light can penetrate. This shape-shifting ability makes him the perfect guardian of a realm that is itself constantly shifting and transforming. Anubis's prominence in Egyptian religion evolved over the 3,000 years of pharaonic civilization. In the Old Kingdom period before 2200 BCE, Anubis was the supreme god of the dead. The pyramid texts give him precedence in funerary matters, and kings sought his protection above all others in death. However, during the Middle Kingdom, Osiris's cult grew in power, and Osiris gradually assumed the role of king of the dead. Rather than being displaced entirely, Anubis adapted. He became Osiris's son and loyal servant, the god who had prepared Osiris for resurrection. This demonstrates Anubis's essential nature. He was never about power or dominion, but about service and sacred duty. The main cult center of Anubis was Sinopolis, or Dog City, in the 17th nome of Upper Egypt. Here, jackals and dogs were kept sacred, and to kill one was a serious crime. When these animals died, they were mummified with the same care as humans. Archaeologists have discovered vast catacombs containing thousands of mummified dogs at Saqqara and other sites, offerings to Anubis from devotees seeking his favor. Priests of Anubis, called Hari Seshta, or he who is over the secrets, were among the most respected in Egyptian society. They not only performed embalming but also conducted the opening of the mouth ceremony, a crucial ritual performed on mummies that Anubis was believed to have invented. This ceremony, described in detail on temple walls and in papyri, involved touching the mouth, eyes, and ears of the mummy with special tools, symbolically restoring the deceased senses so they could eat, see, and hear in the afterlife. Ancient Egyptians prayed to Anubis throughout their lives, not just at death. Mothers invoked his protection for sick children, travelers sought his guidance through dangerous places, and anyone facing judgment or trial might pray for the fairness he represented. His influence extended beyond Egypt's borders. When the Greeks encountered Anubis, they associated him with Hermes, their messenger god, who also guided souls to the underworld. This created a hybrid deity called Hermanubis, who appeared in Greco-Roman art, demonstrating how Anubis's archetype resonated across cultures. The legacy of Anubis endures because he represents something fundamental to the human experience: the hope that death is not random or cruel, but orderly and just. In his patient hands, the scales of judgment balanced perfectly. In his careful preparation of the dead, there was dignity and promise. He asked only that people live with truth in their hearts. No impossible feats, no extraordinary sacrifices, simply honest, decent lives. For over 3 millennia, Anubis stood at the gateway between worlds, ensuring that every soul, whether pharaoh or farmer, received exactly what their life had earned. In a cosmos that could seem chaotic and terrifying, Anubis provided one certainty: justice, precisely measured and faithfully executed. Thank you for joining me on this episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please share your feedback and pass this episode along to a friend who might enjoy it. I'll see you soon with another story.